guys, welcome back to my channel where I make videos about tech, unboxing, product reviews, events, and some fun stuff. And for today's video, I will be talking about interviewing for IT positions or other technical positions, and I will be discussing what goes on this kind of interviews from the beginning, what questions that you will be asked, the closing, and I will also give some tips on how to prepare for this kind of interviews. So if you are currently looking for a job in IT or tech, or you are planning to find a job in IT one day, please keep on watching, and without further ado, let's get started with the video. So the tech industry has been evolving and booming the past few years, and there's a lot of people who are trying to really get into this field because it is a very lucrative career and it pays really well. So to some people who are transitioning from other backgrounds or other fields, they are trying to get to IT support first to get their foot in the door, and I know that applying for one is really challenging, especially if you are just starting into this field and you really don't have that much of an experience, or you just graduated from college. And interviews, just like any other interviews, can be very stressful and very nerve-wracking. This video was requested by a lot of people who are trying to apply for IT jobs after they finish their training or their school. So good luck to you guys. Just remember to be really prepared. It is better to be over-prepared than under-prepared. So I really hope you and wish you all the best in finding a job, and I hope you will get the job that you will like. So interviewing for a job is usually different in the tech industry because they will be asking you technical questions which will assess your proficiency for a certain type of skill, and also situational or behavioral questions which will assess how you would handle a situation given to you. So when you're starting your interview, the interviewer isn't gonna ask you technical questions right away, just like what an Active Directory is or how you would resolve an issue, but there will always be an introduction to every interview, no matter what field you're applying for. You will always begin with getting to know the interviewer and the interviewee. So at the beginning of the interview, which is the introduction of getting to know the interviewer, there's a few questions that they will ask you, and the first question is the most common question that they always ask their interviewee, and they will always say, "Tell me about yourself." So when you talk about yourself, of course you're not gonna talk about your personal life because you're applying for a job and they really don't want to hear it, or they don't really care about that. But you're gonna talk about your work experience. How long have you been working for that job? What roles you had? What responsibilities? What duties you had? The technologies you have worked with, especially if you are working for an IT, if you're applying for an IT support position. If you are applying for an entry-level position, however, and you didn't have any work experience prior to that and you just graduated from college, just tell them about your academic experience, what you have studied in college, what subjects you took, if you had any internships, what projects you made. That will also show them what kind of skills you have and the projects that you worked on before, even if you didn't have any experience. So talk about those important things that matters when applying for the job position. And also, one of the introductory questions that they might ask you is, why do you want to work for this company? This is a bit of a challenging question because the employers also want to know why you want to work for their company and why you chose their company to apply for out of many companies out there. So you better be prepared to answer this question. You really need to research on the background of the company and the culture of the company, and just really express that the company is a good fit for you and you want to work for the company because it will help your professional career. So that was the introduction or the beginning of the interview, and now let's move on to the next part of the interview, which is the technical questions. So just a tip when you are preparing for the technical questions in an interview is just to make sure that you have checked the job description and the job application and see what they are looking for in a candidate, because the employers want someone that really fits the job description and the role. Also, it is very important to check what technologies they use use specifically, because those technologies are what you're going to be working on when you get hired, and the employers want to know if you are skilled and proficient enough to work on those technologies. So now let's move on to the technical questions part of the interview, and this is a really challenging one. So you really need to prepare for this. You need to study, you need to review for the technical questions, because they will be asking you tough questions, like really tough question, and you really need to be prepared for it. So for the technical questions, be prepared to define and explain terms like Active Directory, Windows Profile, Recycle Bin, DNS, DHCP, and all of the terms that they have mentioned in the job description. So better review and study all of those. And the technical part of the interview doesn't end where you would have to define, explain, and give examples for each of the terms that they will ask you, but they will also ask a lot of troubleshooting questions regarding the technical aspects or the technologies that they use. So better be prepared also to come up and think of the common issues that they might be asking you, especially in IT support. They want to know how you would resolve issues, because you will be handling and troubleshooting a lot of issues on a daily basis. That's really a huge part of our job, is troubleshoot and helping users resolve their issues. Some of the questions that they will ask you will be, how would you troubleshoot a user having printer issues? If the user comes to you saying that they can't find the file in their Windows machine, how would you help the user? How do you troubleshoot an issue with a machine not having an internet connection? Sometimes it would also ask you for certain commands or services that would help you troubleshooting the issue, and some of the questions are, what commands would you use for DNS lookup in Windows? What command would you use to make a directory in a Linux system? So that is the technical part of an interview, and now let's move on to another just as challenging part of the interview, which is the behavioral questions. So if they do ask you for behavioral questions, I do highly suggest you to use the STAR format. This is a very effective way in giving your answers and expressing your answers, showing results in an answer, and just a more structured way in answering your questions. So when they ask you a question, you just tell them what situation it was, what were the tasks that you were supposed to do, what actions you took for that situation, and what is the overall result, or what happened in the end of doing all of those actions and tasks, and what happened with the situation. Also, when answering these questions in STAR format, make sure that the results are positive and really had an impact in the situation that you were in. And also, it's a good thing to talk about any kind of measurement when you're talking about the results in your action. For example, you can talk about the percentage on the rate of success on the project that you have done before, or how many users were able to do something more productively. So some of the examples of the behavioral questions are the following. Tell me about a time when you had to deal with a difficult customer. How did you handle it? Tell me about a time when you were faced with a problem that had a number of possible solutions. What was the problem, and how did you determine the course of action? What was the outcome of the choice? And if you are applying for an entry-level position, you just got out of the college, don't worry, because they will not be asking you questions about job experience or your previous work experience, but you can also talk about your school, your studies, your projects, your internship, your volunteer work before, and they will ask you questions based on that. So the possible behavioral questions for an entry-level position will be, what was your biggest challenge as a student, and how did you handle it? Have you completed any internships? What did you gain from the experience? How has your college experience prepared you for a career? So you have got through introduction, the technical questions, and the behavioral questions, which are really tough and very challenging, but the interview doesn't end on that. There is still a closing part for the interview where the interviewer is gonna ask you if you have any questions for them. And always ask questions at the end of the interview. Always say yes if they ask you if you have any questions. Never say no if they ask you, because it shows that you are interested in the job that you are applying for and that you want to know about the culture of the company, if it's a good fit for you. So HR managers and interviewers always say that those people who never ask anything after interview really doesn't get the job at all, because it just shows disinterest and it just shows that you are not prepared or really not into the job role or the company. So really better prepare your questions and better ask questions when they ask you if you have any questions. So now that we are talking about questions to ask after the interview, I'm gonna give you some of the questions that you can ask after the interview. How would you describe a typical day at work? So this is a very good question because it gives you an idea on what they do at work on a daily basis, and it really shows you if the role is suited for you, because it's not just the interviewer that wants to get to know the person that they are interviewing for. We also, as the interviewee, want to get to know if the company is a good fit for us. Like, it's a mutual understanding and it goes both ways. Not just the employer is interested in you, but you also have to be interested in the company and the job role as well. Can you tell me about the culture of the team or the company? What can I learn to be more successful in this role? What are the next steps in this process? And that's about it for this video. I hope that you learned something, and I hope that this video will help you during your application process and your interview. Good luck to all of those who are applying for a job in IT or trying to get into IT. And if you have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment down below. I will make sure to do the best that I can to answer those questions, and I hope to see you guys in my next video. Thank you so much for watching.